We are live from MBA Servicing. My guest is Mike Reynolds, who's the VP and Head of Servicing for Freddie Mac Single Family. Mike, it's so great to have you on this conversation today.
Thank you, Diego, and thank you, HousingWire, for having me.
So before we dive in, could you briefly introduce yourself and also your role at Freddie Mac?
Sure. I'm the head of servicing for the single family Freddie Mac business. I've been in this role for just a little bit over a year. The prior decade or so, I was running a CRT program for the company. We raised a lot of private capital to put some protection against credit losses. And then I'm really a single family GSE generalist. Prior to that, I've been in other strategic development roles, and I spent about 10 years developing technology.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Very interesting background. We're dealing with a little noise here. We are live. I think they're breaking down lunch at this point. But Freddie Mac is announcing a new initiative, I believe at this event, called Servicing Excellence. Could you tell us a little bit more about that initiative?
Yeah, so the idea of servicing excellence is, as a head of servicing, I've come in, I've really tried to take a year to understand what priorities we should have moving forward. Everything's generally really good. But I wanted to say, hey, I wanted to challenge ourselves to be even better. I want to challenge ourselves to be even better, and all of our servicing partners to be even better. Servicing is a very, very active and important business. You know, maybe some of your listeners, they're probably very sophisticated, so they understand. But some may have an impression that, servicing is a little bit of a sleepy business. It's kind of an afterthought. And maybe it's something that you got to do because the core part of the business is originating loans or something to that effect. And I want to dispel that. For anybody who's got that mindset, I want to dispel that. That may be true for some servicers or some participants, but largely, servicing's become a very attractive business that has attracted a lot of participants. It's attracted a lot of capital. And me, being the head of servicing for the single family business, where we have roughly 13.6 million loans, I'm responsible for the credit outcomes related to that.
Right.
So, even a 1 BIP of credit loss, if you can make a savings, that's very, very significant. And of course, we have homeowners, right? We're looking to try to create the best outcomes for those homeowners, or at least opportunities in the times when they hit distress. So the concept of servicing excellence is, let's make sure that we are putting as much as we can on Freddie Mac, and then to be a little more demanding of our servicers, to ask them to do more, and then hope that they're a little more demanding back on us to make sure that we're delivering whatever it is that their particular business preference is, that we can kind of accommodate their business model.
So servicing excellence builds on a legacy initiative called Reimagining Servicing. How are you layering on top of that initiative?
So Reimagine Servicing was largely a technology campaign that we launched in 2019. And we completed it in 2024. Okay. In December of 2024, we retired one of our assets called Workout Prospector. And with that, we accomplished everything that we set out to do with Reimagine Servicing. And that's a very significant effort. And I wanted to make sure folks understood that Freddie Mac, we're finishers. We get things done. We don't just open projects and they go on and on and on. It's like everything that we set out to do to modernize our servicing infrastructure, which were very ambitious goals and required significant amount of industry interaction and support, we got it done. And so first of all, we want to celebrate, mission accomplished in that regard. Reimagine Servicing is made tremendous benefits in multiple ways that maybe we can get them, I could talk about in a second. And it was also represented a substantial investment on Freddie Mac's part. Just a lot of dollars that we put into that technology. That said, with Servicing Excellence, we're building on that foundation. Yeah. So the message I want to get out to the industry is, even though we're done with Reimagine Servicing, that does not mean we're done in our investments that we're putting into servicing. As I said at the top, the servicing business is critical. It's very, very important. It's important to us, a lot of constituents out there. It's important to homeowner outcomes. And so we're going to keep on pouring into that space and making the next level of enhancements. to be prepared for whatever, our current state of the economy and whatever might come next.
You mentioned earlier asking more of your servicing partners and them asking more of you. I imagine there are challenges that you're thinking of when you make that statement. What do you think are some of the challenges where you're going to ask more of your servicing partners and you think they're going to ask more of you?
A couple areas. Generally speaking, the economy is doing really well, but there's mixed signals. It's not all one directional. So some aspects, you look at the economy, it's doing pretty good. Other aspects of the economy, it shows some weakness. And so we have to be on top of that. Again, with 13.6 million loans, a small percentage of a dip of folks going delinquent is a significant impact financially to the company. It's a significant impact to those homeowners who may be going through that distress. So the economy will probably continue to have some type of slowdown. Okay, the expectation on rates is on interest rates is there going to be not as many cuts as we expected. That's going to put some pressure on originations and home price appreciation. On average, we're predicting to slow down. Our expectations to slow down. So those are some pressure points. We'll see what happens with jobs. Those are some pressure points. We also are seeing other forms of increased expenses that homeowners have to bear. And so generally speaking, that's inflation. You can kind of lump that into the broad inflation, and then you can start to cut into more specific. Certainly to acquire a house is very challenging from an affordability standpoint. Even if you're in a house, you may be fortunate enough to have a locked in low rate. If you're, a lot of folks on our book have great rates compared to today's markets, but they may be having increased insurance premiums, or they may be having increased taxes, or there are other aspects. If you're in a condo, increased condo fees. So there's differing pressures that can be mounting on there, and just that relationship of expenses relative to the rise in incomes. Those are the types of things that we need to continue to manage. And I think Freddie Mac does a pretty good job managing that. Everything that we do is through our servicing partners. We really set policies, but as I mentioned on the Servicing Reimagine, we embedded technology into the servicing shops to better enact the policies and change those policies. So that's kind of like the real key thing there is, are we collecting the right data? Are we utilizing that data? Are we marrying it up with interactions we have with our servicers and our servicing partners to be able to be making the right adjustments to our policies to address whatever the current issue is and the changing issue? And we are a big national company, so we have to define it on a national level, but that has to incorporate, geographic specific concerns, because some geographies or some states are going to have slightly different stresses than others. And so those are all the types of things that we need to balance.
I would imagine that you are booked with a lot of meetings over the next couple of days with your servicing partners. What are you going to tell them about servicing excellence in terms of how it's going to impact their day-to-day and your partnership with them?
The primary consumers of servicing excellence campaign, as I see it, are people who work at Freddie Mac.
Yeah.
What I'm laying out for the folks at Freddie Mac, I want them to understand how to prioritize our efforts, where to place our focus. And there's four main pillars to that. It's be a premier asset manager. It's to help homeowners. It's to help servicers. And then it's to help Team Freddie. Like, what can we do? Like, Freddie employees are extremely valuable to us, and the jobs that we have are good jobs, and we want those jobs to be made even better on a go-forward basis, and we want to attract talent coming in. Now, Diego, specific to servicers. Servicers have differing business models. As I mentioned, there's been a lot of influx of servicers, different shops coming into the business over the last many years. A lot of capital associated behind that. But there's been also other servicers who, they're not as interested in holding on to that servicing book. Frankly, they kind of rather just be more on the origination side, and then they want to transfer that servicing to somebody else. Or if they have a servicing book, they really want to be good at performing loan servicing, which is the vast majority of our book, 99.5%, roughly. But when the loan goes delinquent or seriously delinquent, they really don't want to kind of be in that space because it's a huge, huge investment that you have to be that space and to do that well at scale. And so, okay, we can give options for them to transfer. So really my message out to servicers is a couple things. One, as I said at the top, we've finished Reimagine Servicing, but Freddie Mac is committed to improving the servicing industry. Collectively, we want to improve the way servicing operates. We want to see how we can drive down costs, pull down costs. And then two, our commitment is the Freddie Mac team. We need to understand that servicer's particular needs, each and every servicer's particular needs, to say, okay, let's make sure that we're working with you in the business construct that you need. And then let's make the technology investments to help further whatever those particular goals are.
We've seen a trend at HousingWire, and you referred to this a little bit. Some servicers are amassing a pretty big book of servicing rates. I think Mr. Cooper is up to $1.5 trillion or even more now with a recent acquisition. So that's a trend. What are some of the other trends that you're seeing come to fruition over the next 2 to 5 years?
So, I want to, first, you mentioned Mr. Cooper. I want to give a shout out. They're a Sharper winner for us. Sharp is an annual awards program where we recognize the top performing servicers in various categories. We'll be handing Mr. Cooper some hardware later on today.
Nice.
And so, a lot of servicing is a scale business. It's a scale business. And so if you have a big infrastructure, the marginal cost to take on that next loan diminishes as your scale increases. But managing delinquent loan, and that's for performing. That's for performing loans. But as the loan goes delinquent and deeply delinquent, and you're trying to deliver these various solutions or opportunities for the homeowners to stay or exit, that's very much hands-on, resource-intense type of program. So I think there's it makes sense for some servicers to really try to grow that aggregate scale and really take advantage of those economies of being really large. But even so, you got to make sure you have that robust default management process. And so what we do at Freddie is we have numerous ways. One of the easiest ways to explain in this type of format is we have a scorecard. We have a scorecard. That scorecard drives this Sharp award that I described. And so that scorecard will go in and assess the servicer's performance, at every stage of the delinquency, basically. So, okay, you had a lot of loans that were current. All right, now how many went to D30? They fell 30 behind. Okay, now you got loans that were D30. How many of those fell to D60? Okay, and then as you go deeper and deeper, did you get that loan modified? Did you apply our loss mid waterfall? So we're asking servicers to keep on doing what you've been doing, but now at least this year we're saying, hey, put a little bit more attention in those early stage. The general concept for Freddie Mac is as soon as that loan goes D30, we're incurring some type of expense. That expense increases significantly as the loan goes deeper and deeper into delinquency. And so, from a premier asset manager perspective, which is what we aspire to be, we're saying, look, let's minimize that expense as much as possible, intervene as much as possible. It's also good for the homeowner.
Right.
The probability of that homeowner having to exit the property will increase as they go deeper and deeper and deeper. So we're saying, okay, try to put a little more effort in early stage. And we've always done that, but we're just tweaking it a little bit. We're putting a little more emphasis on it. We're saying, hey, look, don't let that good borrower who could maybe be addressed with just a payment deferral of 4 months, whatever it may be. Try to do that right away versus waiting until it's deeper and fixing it then. And so that's the first part. The second broader theme over the next several years is Freddie Mac has evolved over time since our creation back in the 70s of being highly dependent upon the servicers. And we only collect so much data. We kind of collect as much data as we think we need at that point in time. And always balancing that with the cost to be able to collect that data. Now, as technology improves, as data storage becomes cheaper and cheaper, there is an opportunity for us to kind of collect more data, but that's not free. So we got to be very careful as we go through this process and interact with servicers. But there's probably some emerging risks that we only are getting partial insight on, and we need to eliminate that blind spot and get a little more insight. So, I mentioned like insurance costs are increasing. We currently only get partial insight on that, and so that might be one area where we say, okay, we have to work with you to go deeper and deeper on that. And there's probably other areas like that where, as technology improves, and the data that you're collecting, which translates to the data that you train your models with, we want to make sure that whatever changes occur, change is always happening, that we're updating our models and our policies and our strategies to accommodate the current situations.
Mike, this has been a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diego.